Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Lenny and I am turning a cargo trailer into a tiny house on wheels. If you haven't seen my previous videos, go check those out. I've made some great progress so far. But today, talking about water. Now, speaking of previous videos, I already installed my water tank boxes underneath the trailer. So I've got two 30-gallon water tanks for clean water and gray water hooked up with all the fittings. And those are in a wooden box, an insulated wooden box under the trailer. So if you haven't seen those two videos, go check those out. I'll leave the links right here. Now in this video, we are doing the rest of the water system. So that includes water pump, water accumulator, drinking water filters, sink, not the shower, although I am going to put a shower in at some point. And we'll also maybe touch on the water heater. So all good stuff. Let's get right into it. All right, let me get out of here before these crawdads start nipping at my toes. Oh my god, there's like a million little fish right around my feet. You're gonna start nibbling on me. Let me show you where I'm parked for the weekend. We got this beautiful river behind me. Not so bad, not so bad. And then over here, we got my house right next to the river. It's a riverfront property. Pretty good. And over here we got some ducks. Are those guys doing duck shit? Chilling on a rock, being ducks.
All right, before we get too deep into anything, let me show you my water system diagram. So we're starting in the top left corner. We have the outside inlet and the inside inlet, which feed into my clean tank. From the clean tank, we move into the pre-pump filter and the pump. So the pre-pump filter is just a large particulate filter that protects the pump from getting any large debris in it. I'm also going to say ignore those green boxes right below that and also the line above it. Ignore those for now. I'll circle back at the end here on what those are for. But anyway, after the pump, you go straight into the accumulator, which equalizes pressure for equal pressure distribution. And then you have a series of valves and splitters in this zone. First up is the drinking water filters. So that's the first branch. Filters for my drinking water, self-explanatory, straight into their own drinking faucet. Then the next branch is my cold water line. The cold water will go straight into the kitchen faucet, the indoor shower, and the outdoor shower. Now, the third branch out of the accumulator is going to be for the water heater. So that heats the water. Self-explanatory there. And the water heater, hot water, will go straight into the kitchen faucet, indoor shower, and outdoor shower as well. So each of those get a cold and hot input. Now, the kitchen faucet and drinking faucet both drain into the kitchen sink, and then that drains straight into the gray water tank. The gray water tank also has input from the indoor shower. So those both drain into the gray water tank, and then the gray water tank gets emptied into planet Earth. And the outdoor shower also goes straight into planet Earth. Now let me loop up and talk about these green boxes. This was an idea that I had that I'm not going to implement to pull water from a river through an extra filter into the pump. And then that's what that top blue line is after the pump back to the clean tank. So you would pump water out of a river and up around into the clean tank with a series of valves. I don't want to ruin my clean tank with microbes and stuff, so I decided against doing that. But you can do that if you want. There are people on YouTube who've done it, so check that out. And then the other thing that I have not installed, which I want to touch on, is this line over here on the left. So the concept here was that I wanted to run hot water back into my clean tank. And the purpose of this would be to prevent it from freezing in the winter. It's currently summer, so I haven't done that, but I am keeping it on the table as an option to install at a later date if I feel like I need to.
All right, so the clean and gray water tanks have to both be filled and empty. So this is where the process starts over here on the left side of my trailer. I got my fill port. You already saw me install that on a previous video. It's locked so nobody can poison me while I'm in there. And it's just a little fill port like that. Pretty simple. This is my water inlet. Comes straight down into the clean tank. And then this is the vent for the clean tank. This is my inside water fill. So I've got like a little inlet there, and then the tube goes and intersects my normal water fill tube and goes straight into the clean water tank. Right under the couch. And down here is where the process ends. This is the output for my gray water tank where I can dump. I won't open it right now because I don't want to make a big puddle right here. You already saw me install this too in a previous video, so go check that out. First attempt at my sink drain here. I guess I say first attempt because everything always goes wrong. So I'm expecting this to go wrong at some point, but apparently, here's what we have now. We got sink, drain into this pipe, little trap action, a number of adapters because fucking nothing makes sense. I need 100 adapters to do anything around here. To my flexible spa hose supported by a zip tie. Straight into my tank. Okay, next up we will be talking about the output for the clean water tank, and this is the meat of the system. So, this is a valve diagram showing you where all my valves and splitters are, which is very important. My other water diagram was not nearly as detailed enough. So a valve is just a V circled, so that's what those V's are on this diagram. So, start with the water tank into my first valve. Then we have my filter, my pre-pump filter, into the pump and the accumulator. Then we have my first splitter. So that's just a T-splitter. The first valve goes into the sink right here. So that is the first valve in the system. And then we have another T-splitter going down, which has a valve on the right that goes to the shower. So this is the cold water valve for the shower. And then we have another valve that ended up being unnecessary, but I installed it anyway because it kind of splits off the bottom half of the system. And a T-splitter that goes to a valve on the right. That valve also ended up being unnecessary, but I have an extra output if I need it. Probably should have just put an elbow there though. So then coming over to my T-splitter over here on the middle, this runs to a valve, and these are my drinking water filters. And then this valve on the left here looks unnecessary in the diagram, but it's actually important because this section of line here is pretty long. It runs to the back of my trailer where my water heater and outdoor shower are. So I wanted to be able to isolate those with a valve. Now we have a T-splitter into my water heater. So that has 3 valves. The first valve goes straight into the water heater for cold water. And then there's a hot water valve coming straight out of the water heater, which is this. And then the third valve is a bypass valve. So you can open the bypass valve and close the other 2 valves. And that allows you to bypass the water heater with cold water and run cold water through the hot water lines, which can be important for cleaning and various other reasons. So moving on to the outdoor shower, we have a cold water valve coming into the outdoor shower, and then we'll look at the hot water line next. So yeah, the first output for the hot water line is a T-splitter into a valve for the outdoor shower. And so that's how I do my temperature control on the outdoor shower, is just these 2 valves. And then moving along, we have this long line which runs from the water heater all the way back to the front of the trailer. We have a T-splitter there that runs into a valve for the sink. And then the other branch on that is a valve for the indoor shower. And that's it. So here we go. Got the board all mounted up. Tossed it in with some screws straight into the beams, the steel beams of the trailer. So the board is locked into the frame of the trailer. And I mounted a few things, kind of preliminarily. Maybe I'll move them around if the hoses, depending on the length of the hoses and whatnot. But I guess from start to finish, well, right there is where my clean water comes out of my clean water tank, which is this. Then that's gonna get attached to my pre-pump filter, go through this hose into my Pentair SureFlow pump. And then that is gonna go into my C-Flow accumulator. And then from there, we're gonna have a three-way splitter with valves. One line is gonna go into my Beach Lane drinking water filters, and that will go up to the right faucet, which is for drinking water. Then after the accumulator, the next line will go to the cold water regular faucet line here. And then the third will go to my hot water heater. So let's show you that now. What you're looking at here, I did a little rearranging. We got the water pump that comes in from here, from the water tanks. That goes right there. That flows, this is the same pipe right here and here, straight into the accumulator. And then I'm working on my plumbing setup for the rest of it. So this is what I got so far. Basically, I need 5 different places that water's going post accumulator. So what I'm doing here is just the PEX A stuff. And if you don't know how PEX A works, I will show you that right now. It's these tubes with these collars, and you expand the collars and fit them over the fittings. So this is what the tube looks like, and this is what the collar looks like. And you essentially just fit those together. So this is my valve. It already has a tube and a collar on one end. So I'm going to fit the tube and collar on this end. Oh, and by the way, PEX A has a special barb. It's a very specific barb shape. You need to buy the PEX A barbs. Or Pro-PEX is the other word for it. The other thing you need is the tool. This is a expander tool. So what you do is you just fit the expander hose on there. Give it a couple good scraunches. That's 1, 2, 3. I like doing 4. 4 good scraunches. And then it's expanded. Loosey-goosey. And then you literally just fit it right over. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. Yeah, slips right on, just like that. Definitely wasn't difficult at all. And then the plastic just shrinks and becomes a nice tight seal. Bam! Look at that. Little manifold action. Yeah, that'll be good. I'm using this pipe thread sealant for the plastic. Just gonna thread these on. Hey, yo. All right. Not too shabby. And that valve hits the water filter. You see that? So that's problematic. We're gonna make it it's just gonna be a valve that goes this way. Perfect. Better. All right, done. Is that gonna work? I don't think so. It's gonna be a valve that's at a 45. Is that gonna work? So it's not gonna hit there. It's not gonna hit there. Maybe a little bit more than 45. Beautiful. This one doesn't hit. This one doesn't hit by a miracle. Oh, what a mess.
I really would like these valves to be screwed into this board, but it's just not realistic, it turns out. Why is this so wobbly? What the fuck is going on here? Is that broken? Jesus Christ. I'm gonna stop this video. You guys need to see this. All right, I just finished plumbing up my plumbing system. So since the last time I showed y'all anything, I added this last junction, which goes back there, and we've got 2 valves. The one that goes up shoots me into my drinking water filters. Then that goes into this skinny line and up to my drinking tap, which is there. And then that valve, which has nothing on it, is for the outdoor shower, which will come later. So yeah, still missing water heater and indoor shower. Those are those 2 empty valves. But I got both of my taps hooked up with just cold water. So I just wired in the pump, got my wires, and it turned it on, it works. And so I'm about to fill my clean water tank for the first time. When I say fill, I mean I'm gonna put a liter in it and see if anything goes wrong. Check this out. Running water without any leaks. I did have a big leak I was just cleaning up, but it was just because this stupid compression fitting on the drinking line right there wasn't even in all the way. It was just spewing out. But anyway, everything's working in the drinking line. This is the only one I have hooked up and able to test so far. So, pretty exciting. And that's a wrap for this video. In order to get my proper sink faucet working, I need my hot water to be hooked up because there's a mixing valve in the faucet. So the next step is really to get the hot water heater in, and then my outdoor shower, and then my indoor shower will be last. So stay tuned for those videos coming in the future. The hot water heater is definitely its own video, and the showers will be their own video as well. So thanks for watching, and toss me a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more. And I'll leave it here with a little bit of nature.
We got some wildlife out here in the river. They're swimming. Bye.